Their defense is a joke.
What it really comes down to is I would love to have either of them.
They don't have a prayer in their secondary. They have nothing.
So you're saying just don't draft Blunt?
I'm saying don't draft Blunt.
He was unbelievably efficient last year.
You know that they use their running backs in the passing game a ton.
I'm drafting him tonight.
That's Team Huevos. Huevos gigantes.
Hey everyone, welcome to the FantasyPros Football Podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Sylvester, and I'm joined as always by Mike Tagliere and Kyle Yates. You can follow us on Twitter at BobbyFantasyPro, at Mike Tagliere NFL, and at Kyle Y NFL. Guys, we've got a great guest today. It's Jordan McNamara. He's on staff doing the Analytics of Dynasty at analyticsofdynasty.com. You can check him out there. Jordan, thanks for coming to the show. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure. Here's what we're doing today, guys. We're doing a real NFL mock draft. This is our fourth of the season. And in the past, we've done, who would we pick? Yates, in this situation, we're doing what the NFL teams would do, so it's going to be a lot more realistic. What do you think about this?
Man, I'm excited. I mean, we're just over a week away from the actual NFL draft, so I think this is our last chance to really try to nail these down outside of, an article form or anything like that can come out the day of. But I think, man, this is an exciting time. We're right around the corner, and this is kind of our last shot to try to get this right. And, of course, it's not going to be right because one trade sends everything off, but it's a ton of fun, and I'm really excited for it.
And by the way, we're going to be doing this draft on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/fantasypros. You can watch it. You can see the draft board and everything as it's going on in case you maybe missed a pick, you're listening at work or whatever. That's, again, youtube.com/fantasypros. Tags, how's it going, man? Before we start this draft, what's going on, buddy?
It's good, dude. I mean, this is our last mock draft episode, so looking forward to it. And as Yates said, we're not going to be right, but the thing is we have to go upon what we've heard throughout this entire process, what we've looked at ourselves, and a lot of free agency. I think a lot of it's been put on hold. We had the first wave of free agency, and everything really slowed down. And these medical evaluations, man, it's going to be really, really tricky when it comes to players that are coming off injury. And I think that's the reason that a lot of free agents haven't signed. There's a lot of guys still out there. So it's definitely the most interesting NFL draft that I've ever been a part of.
I wonder if Tua is going to drop too, because we don't exactly know what's going on with his injury stuff. I mean, we've been hearing that it's good, but if teams can't check him out, are they actually going to take him with the second, third, fifth overall pick? I guess we'll find out. We're going to start the draft here in just a second. First, I want to say it's going to be 2 rounds. There are going to be trades. We're not going to do 6 trades, 7 trades like we did last time, just because we're trying to do what's most realistic. And while there are going to be 6 to 8 first-round trades, if you try to guess which one of those it's going to be we're going to miss on a lot more picks than we hit on. So we're going to be trading, I think, 3-4 times in the first round, things that we actually think are likely to happen. So let's start with the first overall pick. Yates, I'm assuming you're taking Joe Burrow?
Yeah. I don't think we need to spend a ton of time talking about this one. This is an easy pick. Has been since the end of the college football season. Man, it's Joe Burrow to Cincinnati. End of analysis right there.
Jordan, do you think there's any chance that there's truth to this rumor that the Bengals are shopping the 1-1 pick? And if so, would it be the Dolphins, the Chargers, the Raiders, the Jags? Who would be trading up?
I keep hearing that Miami's smitten with Burrow, which makes some sense. And if you're not convinced, I mean, Cincinnati was there with Justin Herbert at the Senior Bowl. So that the idea that they might be high on him is I don't think is an unreasonable one. So
I mean, I know Bengals fans would be really upset, but think about it this way. I mean, you move back and you get an additional 2 or 3 first-round picks, and you still get a quality quarterback who's not 24 years old as a rookie, who has more than 1 year of quality statistics behind him. You can even go out and you can sign Cam Newton right now.
I mean, they still have Dalton on the roster. I don't think Cincinnati passes on Burrow.
I don't think so either. It's just interesting to talk about. Let's move on to the number 2 pick. This is you, Jordan, with Washington. You going Chase Young here?
Yeah, I'll go Chase Young. I think that there's some possibility that it's a quarterback, but I just with all the reports on Tua, I don't think that's going to happen. And so, take the best defensive player on the board.
Mm-hmm. I've got the Detroit Lions, but we do have a trade to announce. The Lions are moving down to pick number 6. The Los Angeles Chargers have traded up to pick number 3. And in addition to pick number 6, the Detroit Lions are getting pick 237 and a 2021 4th-round pick. So, Tags, you're now on the clock. Who are you taking with the Los Angeles Chargers?
Yeah, Tua Tagovailoa is, we're hearing rumors about medical concerns with him and that people can't get him in. He was known to be a once in a decade type player. Tank for Tua was a real thing, and I don't think that he's going to fall in this draft as much as people think, as they're hearing. I think it's a smokescreen. We know that the Detroit Lions are looking to trade back. They can probably get the player that they want at 5 or at 6, so I would anticipate them trading back with one of these teams, and it seems like the Chargers are all in on Tua right now, and after going through free agency with no quarterback, he's the guy that they're going to go after.
All right, hold on just a second. Let me update the draft board. Who's picking number 4 here? It's
number 4.
Tags,
it
you
is
got
me,
the Giants.
the New York Giants, and I know a lot of people have talked about offensive tackles going here, but then we're also hearing that Isaiah Simmons is like someone that's high on their board. It's really difficult for me not to go with Simmons because it just, based on what we're hearing, and it's sometimes I like Simmons as a player, and I told people months ago that if Simmons goes top 5, you should not be shocked. He deserves to go there, actually. But this all comes down to the Giants and us not knowing, what Dave Gettleman's doing. I don't know if Dave Gettleman knows what he's doing. But at the same time, that defense needs some help. I mean, they can keep attacking that offense all they want, but if you can't stop the opponent, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to say that Isaiah Simmons goes to them at pick number 4.
I think that's correct. Do you think there's any chance that they take a tackle? They could use a tackle. Do you think there's any chance they take a wide receiver tags?
No. It's either tackle or Simmons there for me. I don't think there's any other players under consideration. So, if they went with a tackle here, I think Jedrick Wills is probably a guy that a lot of people would gravitate towards being the first offensive tackle off the board. So,
well, I think he's the best, but I don't know if the Giants would take him.
It's really difficult to say. Becton has moved up draft boards, but again, this whole draft process is a little odd. I just think Simmons actually is he's like a Julio Jones of defense, and that's saying something because I'm like a big Julio Jones fan. Simmons is incredibly fun to watch play, and I don't say that about linebackers very often.
Yeah, Jordan, you've got pick number 5 with the Miami Dolphins. We going quarterback here, or what are we doing?
Well, what I think is going to happen, what I would do if I were Miami, are two different things. I think they're going to take Justin Herbert. So if I were them, I would go a different route and sign Cam Newton. But I think that they will take Justin Herbert at 5.
Yeah.
All right. So Justin Herbert coming off the board. Yates, what do you think? Do you think they go with the quarterback here, or do you think that they wait and maybe get Jordan Love in the late second? In the early second?
Yeah. So I think the smart thing to do would be to bolster up your offensive line. You look at the offensive tackles that they have, and they're not good. to put it lightly. So I think the smart thing to do would be to take a, Tristan Wirfs, Andrew Thomas, even Mekhi Becton here, and then at 18, potentially grab another tackle, solidify that offensive line. You still have Ryan Fitzpatrick there, roll with him for another year. If you don't feel comfortable with Fitzpatrick, then you can go out and get a Cam Newton. Once this kind of all blows over, you can get him in for a medical check. I think that's the smart thing to do. Everything that we're hearing points towards them actually liking Justin Herbert over Tua Tagovailoa, which I just do not understand, but that's the NFL for you.
I agree with you guys. I think that it would make more sense to take the tackle. However, I think that they will take Herbert. So far, I haven't disagreed with any picks. I've got Detroit. They trade down and still get their guy. I'm taking Jeff Okudah, cornerback out of Ohio State.
Yeah, that's like a foregone conclusion. It just depends on where they trade back to, whether it be 5 or 6. But yeah, it seems like the Chargers are the team that would move up. And so let's pretend that a team doesn't move up, that they don't want to trade up. Would they just take Okudah there at 3?
I don't know, Yates. We're hearing that they might take a quarterback.
I think that's smoke.
I
think it's smoke too, but
yeah, I think it's smoke as well. I think it's just an effort to try to get a team to trade up, like we just saw here. I really don't think that they would go, Justin Herbert at 3. I just don't see that. I don't think he fits that scheme well. And then you move on from Matt Stafford, who has had injury issues, for Tua Tagovailoa, who has had injury issues. I just don't see that happening, especially when the Lions need to be playing for their jobs this year. So I just don't see that happening. If they do stay put, I would expect that pick to be Okudah.
All right, I've got the 7th overall pick with Carolina. However, there is another trade to announce. The New York Jets this time are the team moving up. They're trading 111 and 368 to move up to 107. And Yates, this is you. Who are the Jets moving up for?
Yeah, so the Jets take a look at the offensive, the board, and their offensive tackle position and say that, hey, we can't stay put. We are looking at the board ahead of us and seeing that there's still 3 really good guys left on the board, and there's a possibility that they might not get down to us. So we're going to jump up, move a little bit or give up a little bit to go get them, but we're going to go take Andrew Thomas here at the 107. I think that he fits that a little bit better than a Mekhi Becton or Tristan Wirfs. So even though I really think like we're splitting hairs when we're talking about these 4 tackle prospects, I think that they're all kind of in this same tier. It's just going to come down to preference. I see Andrew Thomas being the best fit there in New York.
Now, a lot of people are going to be wondering, why would they move? Arizona's going to take a tackle. Cleveland's going to take a tackle. Jacksonville's not going to take a tackle.
They could.
Is it because you think that Tampa could move up to 9 to take a tackle, and then the Jets would just be sitting there with none of the 4 tackles available?
Well, so there are 3 premier positions, in fantasy or in football that you really want to make sure that you've got covered. That's quarterback, edge, and offensive tackle. Those are your premier positions. And so with those positions, anytime that you have a guy on the board that you identify as a player who you want to bring into your building, then you go and get them. And you don't play this game where you kind of sit, looking at the board. Arizona certainly could take an offensive tackle. Jacksonville certainly could and try to kick Cam Robinson inside. At Cleveland, of course, they're going to take an offensive tackle. That's kind of just where they're telegraphing their needs. So I think looking
unless
at the
they
board,
trade for Trent Williams in the second round,
right? But we don't have that at our disposal.
Well,
now,
and not just that though, guys. Is that let's pretend that Carolina stayed on the clock. Carolina needs a left tackle.
Right. They could.
Well, they have Russell Okung, but
but he is not a guarantee. Well, the weird thing about Carolina, really quick, is that they have Greg Little, Taylor Motton, and Russell Okung, who are all tackles. But then you have an interior position on your offensive line that is like in dire straits. So you need to do something there. So that's why in my latest mock draft, I gave him Tristan Wirfs and just
that makes sense.
was like, hey, kick him inside. And then, at the point that Russell Okung, inevitably gets injured, okay, then you can kick Tristan Wirfs back outside because he brings that versatility. But the Panthers need to be building depth on this roster. So they trade
They need to acquire picks,
Right.
Jordan, do you think Andrew Thomas is the best offensive tackle on the board?
Yeah, I think he's the one that I most see up at the top. It's not a position I scout a ton, so it's. But yeah, I think he's the most commonly one that I see up there.
All right, we're moving on to pick number 8. We've got the Arizona Cardinals coming up, and Yates, this is you.
Yeah, so I think for me, looking at their roster, tackle makes a ton of sense. However, lately that's not been what I've been hearing. I'm going to take Derek Brown here, the defensive lineman out of Auburn. I think that they've kind of got their offense. They were fine last year with the offensive line play that they had. They obviously feel like that's not a huge critical need, so they can. But their defense was atrocious last year, and so they're going to say, hey, we're gonna build this up. We're going to get Derek Brown, who is a monster against the run, monster as an interior pass rush. He's a great player, and I think would be a great fit here in Arizona.
Interesting. I was not expecting that. Tags, what do you think, man? Do you think they go offensive tackle here?
Offensive tackle is what I would do if it were my franchise, but it's not. And Tristan Wirfs is a guy that it makes a lot of sense there if they wanted to put him at right tackle, because it seems like DJ Humphries is the guy they believe is their left solution. But I have been hearing the same things as Yates about Derek Brown potentially going there. And let's not pretend that the Cardinals don't need help on defense. They do, but I thought it was going to be more about protecting their investment of Kyler Murray. They went out and got DeAndre Hopkins. That's all great, but you have to protect your quarterback. So I have been hearing more about that. I don't think it's a pick I would make, but I don't fault Yates for making it because that's what we're hearing.
Sure. Yeah, I will 100% agree with that. Tags, you're on the clock with the Jacksonville Jags.
Yeah, the Jags, they have like 3 you're going to find out soon. They're going to have 3 first-round picks because there's a trade that they're going to be making, but they have a lot of needs on that defense, and losing the cornerbacks that they did with AJ Boye and Jalen Ramsey, they kind of have to replace them. And we've been hearing so many rumors about CJ Henderson being a top 10 pick now. He had a very quick rise to the top. I remember Denzel Ward was a guy that was considered like a top 20 pick, and then all of a sudden it was like he's going to be like top 10, and then he ends up going number 4. I think Henderson's a guy that we should look out for, and Jacksonville's a team that needs a cornerback. There's no guarantee that they're going to get a guy that they love waiting until the 20th pick. So I'm going to say that CJ Henderson to the Jags at 9.
Wow.
It makes the most sense for me in terms of like who's available on the board. They could use a tackle here, but at the same time, I'm going with what I see, and they've met with some cornerbacks, so I think this one makes the most sense in terms of like what we're hearing.
I'm not saying wow because it's unrealistic. Like, I think this is probably who they're going to end up taking if they stay at 1-9. But I'm saying this as a Jags fan. I really don't want C.J. Henderson in the top 10, man.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing is like if we're hearing that he's going to go there, Jordan, I don't know if you've heard anything about Jordan or about C.J. Henderson going in the top 10, but that's the whispers that have been coming around for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I've seen it in a couple different spots, and so I think he's a player that once you get past Okuda, that's kind of a bigger drop. The fact that he comes up just out of a demand sense makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and Yates was talking about those extremely important positions. Cornerback is becoming one of them. Now, it's not in the top 3, but it's right there. We're moving on to pick number 10 with the Cleveland Browns. Jordan, this is you, assuming offensive tackle?
Let's protect our guy. I think you could go any way. I'll go Mekhi Becton. I think you could go with any of the 3. I think they're really close, but I'll go Mekhi Becton.
I think that's a great pick. That's definitely who I would have gone with as well. Tags, what about you, man?
I think so. I agree with the left tackle pick. However, I would have gone with Jedrick Wills here because I believe that what Cleveland needs right now, they need a stable guy, and
He's
Wills
a
may not
safe
have
pass protector,
he may not have the upside that Becton does, but at the same time, he's a guy that they project to play day one, like ready to play left tackle. You plug and play. You forget about it. Wills is a guy that. He's actually expected now to be the number 1 tackle off the board. Andrew Thomas is my number 1 tackle, but Wills he's like almost like the safest, like one of the safer guys that you could pick. And I think Cleveland's looking for safety right now because they need this guy to start day one. It's not like, can he be our starting tackle in 2 years? No, they need him right now.
I've got the Carolina Panthers. They traded back from 7, and I honestly expected Derek Brown to be there. I thought it was going to be a tackle for the Jets, tackle for the Cardinals, tackle for the Browns, and that Derek Brown would still be there. I'm going to take Javon Kinlaw just because that is by far their biggest need. They need a defensive tackle. I guess they could trade back again to get Kinlaw, but that's not in the cards here. So we're disappointed, but I think Kinlaw's a better prospect than Derek Brown. So I'm not personally upset. I just think this is what the Panthers would end up doing, and they would wish they could get Derek Brown.
Wow. I mean, Yates, where are you at on this, man? Because we're sitting here going to the 12th pick now. Now, I actually believe, and Bobby's going to be on the clock with the Raiders, but I actually believe that the Raiders can use a left tackle. I don't hear a lot of people talking about that, and I'm sure the common pick here would be Jerry Jeudy or even CeeDee Lamb if you feel that way. But do we anticipate getting to the 12th, 13th pick, 14th pick of this draft and saying Tristan Wirfs is still on the board, Jedrick Wills is still on the board? Like, who's trading up at that point?
Yeah, that would be the thing. Would be, okay, well, these 2 guys are still on the board. It's the dream scenario for Tampa Bay at 14, right? But
yes,
it would be
is.
at some point teams would be starting to move up in this instance. And again, we're recording this kind of live. We're going through it. We don't have the time to really try to figure out who would be moving up and the logistics of all that. So I think we would definitely see in the actual NFL draft teams moving up for these guys like Jedrick Wills and Tristan Wirfs. But in this instance, Javon Kinlaw has been a riser again throughout this entire process, and I think his stock is starting to come up again. So I do not fault Bobby for that pick at all to Carolina. I think it's a great pick. It's just going to be a matter of, okay, well, now we're leaving some really, really good players on the board, which we see this every year. We see this in the NFL draft, that really good players somehow drop. And then we're on the other end of it trying to figure out, okay, why are these players dropping?
Right. Yep. If Kinlaw went to the Jags at 9, I wouldn't be surprised at all. If he went to Carolina at 7, I'd be a little bit surprised, but I think it's possible. He could be a top 10 pick. Now, you said I'm on the clock. I've got the Las Vegas Raiders, and I am going wide receiver. Now, Jordan, tell me which wide receiver you think is most likely to come off the board first. I know who I'm picking already.
I would think it's going to be Jerry Jeudy if I had to bet. I'd probably take CeeDee Lamb, but my guess would be Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah, I'm going Jerry Jeudy. Tags, you've got Jerry Jeudy, I think, in your top 5 big board. Is that right?
Yeah, he's my number 3 player overall.
He's a phenomenal wide receiver prospect. Yates, how high do you have him? Is he in your top 5 overall?
I can pull that up in a second. I have Jerry Jeudy at number 10 overall on my big board. Okay. So
he's in my top 10 as well.
But he's my number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah, and if he goes to the Raiders, by the way, just know this right now that I'm going to rank him as a top 25 wide receiver this year. I don't know how high it's going to get because Tyrell Williams ain't it.
No competition
Hunter
for
Renfro's
targets,
not
man.
Obviously, Darren Waller's there and he's going to get targeted in that offense,
Yeah.
but Jeudy would walk in and see 100-plus targets immediately.
I
They
absolutely
throw the ball
agree.
a ton, too, and you know what? I think he's going to be a better version of Amari Cooper.
I like Jeudy, but let's take it
Tags'
easy.
line. You found Tags'
Take it
line.
easy.
I'm sorry, Tags. I know that was a personal blow towards you, but
I like them both.
Jerry
I love them
Jeudy's
both.
a great prospect, very similar type of player as well. Yates, you're on the board with the San Francisco 49ers at pick 13. Are you going wide receiver as well?
I am going wide receiver. This is an easy pick for me, even though, again, these offensive tackles keep dropping. We can't let Henry Ruggs drop past the San Francisco 49ers. I think that this is a dream fit. He's someone who can get open easily on slants, on ins. I mean, this guy you get the ball in his hands. And to pair him with an offensive coordinator like Kyle Shanahan, who relies, in that West Coast offense, relies on quick passes, getting the ball in the receiver's hands. We saw this with Deebo Samuel. Let him create after the catch. There are very few players in this class who excel at creating after the catch like Henry Ruggs. So for me, at 13, man, that's a dream fit here for the San Francisco 49ers.
I think this is written on the wall, Tags. What do you think, man?
We keep hearing whispers that Ruggs might be the first wide receiver off the board. That's mind blowing to me. It really is. But again, we hear these things all the time, and they turn out to be true. There's a reason that they're a rumor. Ruggs is going to go inside the top 20. I have him pegged to Denver. Is like the team that I thought he'd complement Cortland Sutton really well. But Ruggs kind of makes sense in that Kyle Shanahan offense opposite Deebo Samuel.
Yep, I think that this one probably is going to happen. And I'll tell you what, I'm sitting here in pick 14 with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they are doing cartwheels. Do they want to go with Tristan Wirfs? Do they want to go with Jedrick Wills? I think they're going to go with Wills just because they know their window to win is now with Tom Brady. They know Wills is going to be safe. They want to protect him. He's a great pass blocker. Offensive tackle out of Alabama coming off the board at 14 to the Tampa Bay Bucs, Jedrick Wills.
Yep, that makes sense. A lot of sense. So it comes back to me, and I'm looking at the Broncos. It's the dream scenario for me. The question is, does Denver do it? And they have met with wide receivers more than any other position. So I'm going to go ahead and pass. I thought about Tristan Wirfs here because he's a guy that I think might project better as an offensive guard. But the interior of their offensive line is not bad. So I'm going to go ahead and say that CeeDee Lamb is off the board at 115 to the Broncos.
I think you've got to take him, man. That's a great pick. Man, there's a lot of teams who would be super pumped if things fell this way. I think the ones who are disappointed right now, Carolina, Jacksonville, everybody else is happy.
Yeah. I have a question really. So Jordan, if CeeDee Lamb does go to Denver, where would you rank him from a fantasy perspective for let's just say next year?
For next year, I mean, it's tough to get it's just rare for wide receivers to hit as rookies. So, I mean, I'd probably have him. I'm just thinking about it, probably like somewhere in the 30s, something like that. Mm-hmm. But I can really see this being a good landing spot for him from a dynasty perspective, and it'd be interesting to see how what the value spread between him and Cortland Sutton would be if CeeDee Lamb went to Denver.
Man, this is suddenly
you've got Jerry Jeudy with the Raiders, Henry Ruggs with the 49ers, CeeDee Lamb with Denver. Who are you taking 1-1 in dynasty?
I mean, Jerry Jeudy would be the pick right now.
Okay.
CeeDee Lamb, I mean, the reason I'd be worried about Lamb in Denver from a fantasy perspective, and I'm with Jordan this one, I would rank him outside my top 30, maybe outside my top 40, because that team is going to be, I mean, Vic Fangio's still the head coach. It's going to be a very run-heavy team, having Phil Lindsay, Melvin Gordon, Royce Freeman, if he even plays. That team wants to run the ball. They want to play good defense, and they did add a lot of talent to that defense this year. So I just don't think the pass attempts are going to be there to support guys like Cortland Sutton, Noah Fant, and CeeDee Lamb, as well as the running backs in the passing game. So I would be a little less excited about that landing spot for him, but I think it's good for him developmental wise.
Jordan, you've got the next pick on the board, the Atlanta Falcons, and this is the first one that, because of the way the draft is falling, is just such a head scratcher. I mean, C.J. Henderson's already off the board. Kinlaw and Brown already off the board. I don't know which direction you're going to go here. What are you doing?
Yeah, so they had the third worst pressure rate in terms of defense last year. I think they need to fix that. They've tried to do that a little bit in free agency. Let's go with Kelvon Chason, the edge player.
Are you still with us, Jordan?
Yeah, his thing froze up, so I'm guessing it's
It sounds Jordan. Like Calavian Chason. Is that who he's picking?
Yes, that's who I picked. Sorry, did I cut out?
Yeah, it's all right. It happens. But yeah, that's actually the pick that I would have I would have had going to Atlanta. He's a guy that they're talking about going potentially top 10. I'm like, I don't get it, but
me either.
He makes some sense for the Falcons, though.
I think this is the correct pick. I think this is who they will pick. I don't think it's who they should pick. But let's move on to pick number 17 now, where we've got the Dallas Cowboys and Tags. You were the GM of the Cowboys today.
Yeah, this one's tough. I mean, I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking about Grant Delpit, safety, out of LSU, and I think that's where I want to go. It's difficult because I'm debating cornerback here, but it just makes all the sense. Like, they've always been tied to safeties over the last few years, and if you look at the prospects that they've met with over the draft process, like 80% have been defense. So this is a team that's clearly highly invested in the defensive side of the ball. They know they need to get better. In that back end of the defense, they've always been tied to someone. So I'm going to say that Grant Delpit, safety out of LSU, is the one who they go with.
Man, it's crazy. Pick. And Wirfs keeps falling. A lot of people think Wirfs is going to be the first offensive tackle off the board. We don't have him picked yet. And here we are at pick number 18. Yates, you have the Dolphins. You took your quarterback already. You might have taken Wirfs at number 5. Now you get him at 18. That's what you're taking, right?
Yeah. This is a dream scenario, and I think that we talked about we can't play this out really quickly here on the podcast, but if Tristan Wirfs were to start falling, I would watch Miami to be that team to move up. They have all the draft capital in the world. They could easily move up to 12, 13, 14, whatever in that range to make sure that they get Tristan Wirfs. I think there are some questions with Wirfs about where exactly you play him on the line. I mean, he's so versatile that you could just put him anywhere, really, and he's going to succeed. I think he's the best at an offensive guard, but he could play either tackle spot, and that's desperately what Miami needs right now. So that's a dream scenario here.
Yeah, I think the Falcons would have considered him at 16, though, too. They're a team that's looking at some interior linemen.
Sure. I've got the Raiders at pick number 19, and I feel very confident in this pick. We know that I think Gruden loves to build culture. They could use a linebacker. Kenneth Murray is still on the board, and that is who I'm taking for the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yep, that seems about right. I mean, that's the weird part. Yates, you've talked about this at length, about the Raiders, that you don't think that they're dead set on what they have at cornerback. Like, through free agency, they signed Nick Kwiatkowski, Corey Littleton. You don't think that's enough?
It depends on how comfortable they are with it. I think that you brought up a great point on the podcast that we did talk about that, where it's like, okay, well, they have some depth there where they could push that down to like the 3rd or 4th round, and they could be walking away with a guy like Akeem Davis-Gaither out of App State. They could be walking away with Jordan Brooks if he's still there. Like, I think that makes a little bit more sense. I think they have some other needs here that they could be looking at 19. However, when you're talking about building up a program, if you will, an NFL team, like, man, Mike Mayock wants to do this the right way, and he wants to bring in high character players. I don't think you find a higher character player than Kenneth Murray in this class. And in addition to what he brings when he's on the field, that defense, especially in the division of Patrick Mahomes, that defense needs speed, and it needs, these guys that can be able to take it to the next level. And their linebacker core would look amazing.
Yeah, it sure would. I'd be pretty pumped about starting Jeudy and then Kenneth Murray in the first round if I was the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, Tags, your Jags are on the clock. Actually, my Jags. I didn't use the Jags in this draft. I assigned the teams because I wanted to take the emotion out of it. I want to know who Tags is picking for my team.
I mean, obviously not getting Derek Brown in the first was a little kick to the Netherlands. I mean, we've heard, so I'm going to go with a different defensive tackle because we've heard them a lot tied to that position. Obviously, they were one of the worst in the NFL at stopping the run last year, so why not get a big guy? We've been hearing Ross Blacklock out of TCU. Yes. He's a guy that's been talked about a lot during this draft process, and he's continually moving up draft boards. So to see him go at this pick kind of makes sense. Right around that 20th pick as the 3rd defensive tackle off the board with Kinlaw gone. If Kinlaw was there, they would go him. But Blacklock, over 300-pound guy, plug up the middle. They need to attack that after losing Calais Campbell, Marcel Darius. So that's my pick there.
Blacklock's one of these players that no matter what team takes him, their fans are going to be very upset because they don't realize how quality of an NFL player he's going to be. I'd be happy if the Jags took him at 20. Now, hopefully Kinlaw's there, but Tags, I think this is a good pick, man.
Thanks.
All right, we've got the Philadelphia Eagles now. Let me figure out really quick who has the Eagles. It's me. Oh, no, wait, I'm trading it. That's why. I'm trading this also to the Jags. And the Eagles are getting Yannick and a 4th-round pick. Tags, can you talk about what Yannick would do for this Eagles defense right away?
Well, I mean, Yannick is a guy that the Eagles always attack that front, the defensive line. They want that pass rush, and it's continually been a trend over and over and over. And they need a linebacker really bad. They need a wide receiver, but they continually attack that defensive front. So getting Yannick there, it's a team that feels like they're built to win a championship if they get Carson Wentz to stay healthy, if they have Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson healthy. Obviously, they have their tight ends there. They're probably going to add some veteran. I would imagine that's a team that's going to add some running backs and or a wide receiver in free agency, but this is such a deep wide receiver class. That's why I think that teams like Philadelphia can pass on one in the first round, because they could probably get a startable one in the 2nd or the 3rd round. So I don't hate this at all for them. And then the Jags, they're a team that obviously they have to do something with Yannick, and so to get a 1st-round pick in return, that's not bad at all.
So who are the Jags taking here at 21 after they already took Blacklock and they already took C.J. Henderson?
All right, so them moving up here, what's weird is that we've heard about Jacksonville shopping running backs, actually, throughout this entire thing. I don't think they're going to draft one here, but we've been hearing about it over and over, and I was looking at it earlier today, and they've been talking, and Leonard Fournette, his contract is up at the end of this year, if I'm not mistaken, so they could be looking for future, because obviously nobody wants to pay free agent running backs anymore. But who are they going to pick?
You going Fulton or Gladney, man? I know you're going cornerback.
Well, I already went cornerback with a 9 with C.J. Henderson.
I'm sorry. I meant safety. Safety.
I mean, safety is a position that they could go after, and we could see someone like McKinney go here, but I'm really torn. They traded up not knowing who they wanted, clearly, because we made these trades, guys, so you guys understand listening. We made these trades beforehand because Philadelphia has been tied to Yannick and that they want him. We know Jacksonville is in rebuild mode. So, you know what? Let's go with...
They could get another edge with Epineza.
Epineza, I feel like he should not go this high. That's the problem.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's just go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and give them another cornerback because they actually can use 2 of them,
sure.
To be honest with you. So Christian Fulton out of LSU, I think he's underrated. I actually have him rated out higher than C.J. Henderson, but those 2 together, that could be their new starting duo, and hopefully without the egos that they had with Jalen Ramsey and A.J. Boye.
That would be nasty, man. I'd be pretty pumped about that.
But they do need an edge defender still.
They've got a lot of picks, though, man.
They do, but, I mean, it just felt like a reach. I'm not a fan of Epineza, and I don't think that he's going to go in the top 25 picks. I could be wrong on that, but it's possible.
Jordan, it's interesting that Philadelphia would make this trade because Justin Jefferson was still on the board, and I think they would take him if he was there, but being able to get Yannick, I mean, he's got 8 plus sacks in all 4 of his first years in the league, and he's still just 25 years old. Yeah. So we're moving on to the Vikings. Jordan, you've got this pick. Are you taking Justin Jefferson?
That Justin Jefferson to the Eagles feels a lot like Josh Jacobs to the Raiders last year, where everyone seems to be pegging that pick there. So it'll be an interesting thing to watch. I am not. I am going to go with a cornerback. I'm going to go with A.J. Terrell out of Clemson. I know that there's a lot of
good pick.
We've seen this in other people report this as well. There's a wide range of opinions on the cornerback class in terms of what basically 3 through 8 would be, or something to in that range. So I think that there could be a variety of options here, but they really, really need help at cornerback. So I'll take A.J. Terrell out of Clemson.
Yates, how do you feel about this move, man?
I love it. I think Terrell's rising again. There's a couple corners who are kind of, we've seen them play like hopscotch, if you will, throughout this whole pre-draft process. So some guys have jumped up, some guys have, taken a fall down now, and I think Terrell is coming back up. He did not play super, super well in the national championship game, but we can talk to, and equate that to Tags' man crush in Jamar Chase there, that, he was lining up against him, and Jamar Chase makes a lot of players' corners look bad. So I think Terrell is a really good player, has great length, great size, would be a player that I know that the Vikings would absolutely love to bring in, and it's a huge position of need.
Jordan, if you would have made this pick a week ago, I would have been shocked, but he's rising up the board so much. I think he does end up at the back end of the first round. I think it's a quality pick as well. I like Jeff Gladney a little bit more, but I think A.J. Terrell is going to be a very good NFL player. Now, Tags, you're on the clock with the New England Patriots. There's no trade to announce. They're not trading down this time. Who are you taking?
This is rough because the Patriots do not have a second-round pick. And I think it may cause them to reach a little bit for a player here. And I think I'm going to surprise some people, but I have heard whispers about this. So understand, this is not what I would do. We're talking about what we think the teams are going to do. And this is a team
You're taking Raekwon, aren't you?
No, I'm not. I like Raekwon. Man. I like Raekwon a lot. And I think
get trashed if you took Raekwon.
I think he would be a fantastic pick. I think I'm going to get trashed even more for saying what I'm about to say.
Uh-oh.
Cole Kmet out of Notre Dame, tight end.
Wow.
That the Patriots have been tied to Cole Kmet and that they love him. He is a guy that can come in. He's a blocker. He's a smart receiver. Faster than I thought he was in terms of what he did at the combine. But I've heard that they are not going to miss out on a tight end again, that they are not going to go through what they went through last year. And if they want someone that can stay in and block, Cole Kmet is the guy. And if they don't have a second-round pick and if they're not trading back, I think realistically they should trade back with this pick. Sure. But again, we're not trying to make picks like trades on the fly right now. But I've heard whispers that New England, if they get to 23 and Kmet's there, which he should be, that he could go there.
The thing is, we had so much trouble figuring out who would trade up to 123. This is kind of a dead spot in the draft. Now, if Justin Jefferson's still on the board, maybe somebody would trade up.
Baltimore is a team that would love to jump in front of the Saints. I can tell you that.
Yep.
Because they're both teams that could be looking at linebacker. And Patrick Queen is a guy that's going to come off the board in the first round. It's just a matter of if he falls to Baltimore at 28, they're taking him. But I don't know if he falls there.
Sure. All right, Yates, you're on the clock with the New Orleans Saints. Are you taking Patrick Queen? You going wide receiver?
I am taking Patrick Queen. The Saints really need a linebacker here, and to shore up their they're in a very tight Super Bowl window, and so I think that to be able to shore up and improve the roster in any place that you can. Sure, they could use a wide receiver, but I think that signing Emmanuel Sanders kind of pushed that need a little bit further down the road. Kind of like the same argument with the Raiders signing the linebackers there. It pushes that need a little bit further down the road. So I will, I'll take Patrick Queen here, who would be an amazing fit in that defense and stays in state there.
He's a good player. Jordan, you're on the clock at 125 with the Minnesota Vikings. Which way are you going?
The cornerback position was so bad last year that I almost thinking about doubling down. But I'll take Justin Jefferson here. They do need a receiver opposite Adam Thielen after the trade of Stephon Diggs, and I like this player, and I like the opportunity quite a bit.
Where would Justin Jefferson end up if you were taking him, Yates, in a redraft league if he ended up with the Vikings?
If he ended up with the Vikings, I think he's going to walk right into a ton of targets. I mean, I went through and did my initial projections for 2020, and I mean, you have guys like Tajay Sharp, Olabisi Johnson, and Chad Beebe are your three wide receivers behind Adam Thielen. So it's like, okay, well, Adam Thielen's going to get 150 targets because that's just what – but realistically, we can say that on paper, but realistically, that's just not how it's going to work out. So I think bringing in Justin Jefferson, man, I'd be looking at him in the 8th round. I think I'd be fine with him as my wide receiver 5, maybe, wide receiver 4, where I can rotate him in if things hit, which I think they would because he's just going to be – he's going to get all the targets he can handle.
So who are the Dolphins going with at 126, Yates? First running back off the board?
No, I think that the signing of Jordan Howard kind of pushes that down the road a little bit, where I think that I don't think that they need to take a running back in the first round, maybe even the second round. I think if they do take a running back, it would be a compliment to Jordan Howard as a pass catcher who then could eventually turn into their starting running back, or they just address it next year because, again, they have a ton of picks. So I think that Josh Jones is the pick here for me, offensive tackle out of Houston. Shore up that offensive line, man. I've said it several times during this podcast, but it's a mess. And so you need to do everything that you can to protect now your investment at quarterback. Yeah, I'll take Josh Jones here and pair him with Tristan Wirfs. I think that's a great start to that offensive line.
All right, let's see here. I've got the actually, Tags, why don't you talk about this pick while I figure out who I'm picking?
Talk about which pick? Josh Jones?
Josh Jones, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Miami's a weird team to try and predict right now because it all depends on what they do at quarterback, right? If they get Tua, if they get Herbert, whoever they take at quarterback, or if they pass on quarterback. I said at the beginning of the offseason that I felt like Miami was a team that may pass on quarterback, that if they really aren't sold on Tua in terms of his health concerns, they don't want to take Herbert where he's going in the draft. It's possible that they just say we're going to continue rebuilding this roster, and then when 2021 comes, we're going to draft our franchise quarterback, and we're going to move forward. So, I mean, getting this offensive line settled, Josh Jones is a guy that he's one of those projections a high upside player where, I mean, they got Tristan Wirfs there at pick 18. I mean, that's their starting left tackle. He's going to walk in. He's going to start. Josh Jones is a guy that they may be able to move to right tackle and do well there. He's a guy that's more of like you say you project him to start in the future. Ideally, I think most teams don't want to start him right away. But if you have to, it might not be a bad thing. And based on what Miami has right now, I don't think it's a bad pick at all. And they need to kind of invest in that position.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's a good long-term pick. Now with the Seattle Seahawks, I'm thinking about Epineza here. First of all, we know Pete Carroll's going to pick somebody that's supposed to go in like the third round, and everyone's going to be scratching their head. I'm not going to guess who that's going to be. I'm just going to go and try to get the correct position. I think it could be an edge rusher, but I'm going to go with an offensive tackle. I think Isaiah Wilson comes off the board here. Offensive tackle out of Georgia who was a mauler. He fits their running system pretty dang well. So that's who the Seahawks are taking at pick 27. Jordan, how do you feel about this pick?
Yeah, I mean, just doubling down on what they want to do, right? I think that makes
Sure.
a lot of sense. I would be I'm interested to see what ends up at their running back position. Not that I necessarily think this is a spot for a Jonathan Taylor, but you have questions with Penny's injury and Carson's coming up on his contract. Like it wouldn't be. I think it would shock the market, but it wouldn't shock me if they address running back either here or in the first 2 days.
We still haven't had a running back come off the board. Is this where it happens? Tags at 128 with the Baltimore Ravens.
No, I debated it, but I can't do it. If they didn't tender Gus Edwards, I would have gone with Jonathan Taylor with this pick, but they didn't. Or they did tender him, so he's going to be back on the roster. They still have Mark Ingram there. They drafted Justice Hill last year. I can't do it. So with all that said, they do need an edge rusher. They have their front three is phenomenal on that 3-4, but they do need some edge guys. So I think Zach Bond out of Wisconsin. He's an edge that can drop into coverage. He kind of makes sense. They need an inside linebacker, but with Murray gone, with Queen gone, with Simmons gone, it feels like a reach to go with one of those guys here. So you might see them go take an upside play, someone like Kyle Duggar, maybe in the second or third round. But Zach Bond out of Wisconsin would be the pick here.
Yates, how do you feel about Bond coming off the board in the first round? I've got him pegged for early third, I think, in my most recent mock.
Oh no, he's gonna go in the first, late first
You
or
think
the second.
So?
Yeah, this is a perfect fit for Baltimore, especially seeing the linebackers go off the board ahead of them. Because what Zach Bond brings is I actually project him better as a strong side off-ball linebacker. But he does have the pass rushing chops to be able to get home. And so you go to a base defense, you go to your nickel, he's versatile. So when you have a linebacking need like the Ravens do, you can solve it with this kind of chess piece that Zach Bond is. He's so smooth dropping back into coverage, is really, really good at it too. So I think that this is a perfect fit for Baltimore, seeing the board play out the way that it did.
All right, next pick on the board. Let's see who is up here.
Bobby's up with
it's
Tennessee.
Me, Tennessee Titans. Oh, boy. Okay, I was not prepared for this. I'm updating the draft board and everything like that. Let's see here.
Now, hold on, Bobby, while you're looking at that. So here's a question I have for Jordan. And Yates, we've talked about this a little bit. I can't remember who it was that we had on the podcast. I think it was Danny Kelly that brought up saying Jonathan Taylor to the Titans. But now that we have Derrick Henry, he signed his franchise tag, and at the time he hadn't. But he has signed it. They haven't been able to work out a long-term deal. It seems like the sides are far apart. Jordan, do you think it's possible they were to take a running back here to kind of prepare for life without Derrick Henry?
Yeah, I think it is. And honestly, anything from like the 25th pick through the 32nd pick, I could see a running back. Or the 26th pick, I should say, Miami basically through Kansas City, I can see one. And so this one to Jonathan Taylor to Tennessee would make a lot of sense to me. And it would keep him pretty cheap, I think, in dynasty leagues, because he would be buried in that, buried in year one narrative is something that's usually pretty cheap. So it would be really intriguing from a fit and a cost perspective.
All right, guys, I am going with an edge rusher for the Tennessee Titans. I'm taking A.J. Epineza. I've thought about it a few times here. So that brings Jordan up on the clock with the Green Bay Packers. Are they getting their wide receiver? Are the fans going to be happy?
Yeah, they need one. And this whole day 3 experience there that they've had on the opposite side of Devontae Adams just hasn't been great. I think the last day 2 receiver they've taken was Ty Montgomery, and so it just hasn't really. That's 5 years ago now. So yeah, I'll take Jalen Reagor, and I thought about taking DeAndre Swift, but I'll take Jalen Reagor.
Ooh, you thought about taking Swift, huh? All right, so Jalen Reagor coming off the board. Tags, how would this fit be for a fantasy perspective?
I mean, it'd be awesome. He's better than Randall Cobb was. I mean, obviously it's a different offense, and it was really shocking to see just how little the slot was used last year after they talked about Geronimo Allison's going to move into the slot. And he had been someone that was dependent, he worked well. He was efficient with Aaron Rodgers when he played on the perimeter, and then he goes in the slot and he just doesn't get targeted in this offense. So clearly the offense has changed. They're not throwing the ball nearly as much. With that being said, they didn't have a weapon like Reagor. He's a guy that could play in the slot. He could play in the perimeter. He could stretch the field. He's just dynamic with the ball in his hands, and knowing that they have Devontae Adams, Reagor would be a guy that's like, if you get him as like a wide receiver 4 on your fantasy team and you plug him in during bye weeks, or you find a matchup where Green Bay is going to have somewhat of a shootout, you put Reagor in there as your wide receiver 3 and he could win you a matchup. He has that type of upside.
Yates, do you buy the fact that he ran like a 2.8 at his pro day?
No. No way. I think he has that play speed. I think that was a little bit exaggerated, especially seeing him run a 4.47 at the combine. So I think, these pro day times, especially it was Cam Dantzler, I think the corner out of Mississippi State, who ran like a 4.6 at the combine and then comes out and he ran a 4.38 at the at his pro day. Like, no, you just don't jump up. Excuse me, you just don't jump up that high. So,
right.
But I think he's still an extremely electric player. I think that the combine's knocking him down a little bit. As far as a draft stock, I don't think it should be. I think he's an incredible player.
Yates, you're on the clock with the San Francisco 49ers, and I know you would love to trade back. Now, we had a deal in place in case Tampa didn't get an offensive tackle at pick 14. Now, they did get an offensive tackle at 14. I thought about still trading up and getting a running back, but Bruce Arians isn't doing that. So I'm taking the trade off the board, and I'm sorry the 49ers are going to have to make their pick. They could use, an extra second, an extra third, but it's not on the table. So who are you going with?
Yeah. Well, I think that their ideal scenario would be to trade down, but there's still some really good corners here left on the board. Jeff Gladney from TCU is still here and available, and I think that that's a realistic scenario. I think that he could still be here at pick 31. They need to be adding some talent opposite of Richard Sherman, and we know that Richard Sherman isn't much longer for the NFL at his age, so Jeff Gladney, TCU, makes a ton of sense.
I think that's a killer pick, and I'll tell you what, you just sniped the Kansas City Chiefs maybe. Jordan, is that who you were going to take?
I'm going to give you the Dynasty 101 rookie pick and take DeAndre Swift. Woo! At Kansas City.
All right. I've got Kansas City taking a running back at the end of the first as well, because they get the extra year on the rookie contract, and after that they're pretty much worthless, right?
Yeah, he'd be the better pick. He like for that offense, right? Like, because considering he's a pass catcher out of the backfield, Jonathan Taylor's more of like that 2-down back where you want a complimentary 3rd down guy. Swift is a 3-down do it all. Fits the Andy Reid offense quite well.
Would he start, though? Would he start right away over Damian Williams?
100%, yes.
You think so? Okay, so how high are we taking him? We taking him in the 3rd round, 2nd round, 1st round, Yates?
In redraft, I would take him mid 2nd round, early 2nd round. I just think that Damian Williams is a very cheap contract player. I think that he played well last year, but again, health is the issue. If they're taking a running back here all the way in the 1st round with so many other needs still available, on their needs analysis, then man, you're going to be using him a ton. So I think that Swift would be a killer beginning of the 2nd round redraft pick.
All right, so Jordan, Dynasty, are you taking DeAndre Swift number 1 in Dynasty over Jerry Jeudy with the Raiders, over Ruggs with the 49ers, over CeeDee Lamb with the Denver Broncos?
So I would right now. Jonathan Taylor would be my number 1 pick on the board. Assuming this happened, I would probably, I would see how far Taylor slid, but I would probably take Swift. Given this board, what I know right now, I'd take Swift over any of the wide receivers.
All right, guys, we're moving on to the 2nd round. It starts with the Cincinnati Bengals again. Yates, this is your pick. What are you doing with it?
Yeah, so they took Joe Burrow, obviously, at 101. They're going to continue building with some key pieces here. I'm going to take Yetur Gross-Matos out of Penn State, the edge player. They have a need there at edge. I feel like he fits that defense really well. He's a bull in a china shop type of player, really, really physical, and brings a lot of upside. So you build, you build your offense, you get the quarterback in place, and then you build a foundational piece here on the defense with Gross-Matos still here on the board.
This is who I mocked to them as well. Tags, I think it's a very good pick. Now you're up with the Indianapolis Colts at 34, their first pick of the draft.
What do they do? Not so much what I would do. I would be debating Denzel
First,
Mims
what
here.
would you do? What would you?
Denzel Mims would be somebody that I would probably be contemplating right here.
Okay.
But I actually think this pick is Jordan Love.
Really?
I do.
Oh man, you don't think they're going to compete this year with Phillip Rivers?
I do, but I think they also have to think about their future. And if Rivers if he trends towards the way he kind of did last year, I don't think it was as bad as everybody thought it was. But it wasn't great. Let's be honest. But it's a 1-year deal. I mean, they have to be prepared for life without Phillip Rivers, without Andrew Luck, and this is a team that needs that franchise quarterback. Jordan Love is not a guy you want to start right away. Clearly. I don't know if Phillip Rivers is the guy to show him the ropes, but it is a guy that GMs apparently have fallen in love with, and he is expected to go in the first round. I just don't know where he fits in the first round, to be honest, and that's why getting him at the top of the second without trading anything, it kind of makes sense for the Colts.
The Colts currently don't have a quarterback under contract through in 2021, so they need to be doing something.
Yep.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think this is very, very much possible. I could see them trading up into the first to get Jordan Love on that rookie 5-year contract. Jordan, how do you feel about this move with Jordan Love? Tags, Yates, and I aren't a big fan. We don't have a first-round grade on him. Do you like him?
It's such a tale of two seasons, good in 18, not so great in 19. It's just a question of demand, I think. And I think there's a reasonable chance he goes ahead of this. I think whether someone trades up into the back part of the first round, or there's a team, with a need somewhere in the teens, something like that. I could see that scenario. This would hurt his dynasty stock, I think, a lot, just because the hit rate going from a round 1 to a round 2 quarterbacks, it's a huge dent. But he would get the opportunity to basically sit a year and potentially develop. And I like what the Colts. I like how they operate their team. I think it would be a good atmosphere for him to grow up in.
And they play in the Dome, which is, it's useful for a fantasy quarterback. So the Lions are on the clock. They got Jeff Okudah in the first round. This is me. I'm going to go with Cesar Ruiz, inside offensive lineman, with the 35th pick in the draft. He's a guard out of Michigan.
Yates, do you like Ruiz? I'm not a big fan. I mean, I could be wrong. And in offensive linemen, to be fair, this is a weak draft for them overall, but I don't feel like Ruiz is a first-round talent. That's just me.
I think if you look at the interior offensive line class as a whole, I don't think that it's necessarily one that screams, first-round talent across the board. But I do think that Ruiz is a really, really talented offensive lineman. He's a smooth mover in space, physical. So I think that he fits, especially for the Lions now, where you lose Graham Glasgow. Yeah, you have Kenny Wiggins there, but I don't know if you really want to rely on him. So yeah, bring in Cesar Ruiz. And again, you need to be playing to win this year. So I think that making sure that you don't have any holes up front, keep Matt Stafford healthy, it's a good pick.
Just to be clear, I don't think he's a first-round pick either. I just think, there's a lot of noise that he's going to go in the first round. He's going to go in the early second. And if they're going to take an offensive guard, it's probably going to be him. Now, Tags, I know you, like me, like Tyler Bides, as your top offensive guard on the board, right?
Yeah, he's I like him. I think he's a guy that can go in there and help you run the football. He is my top interior lineman.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably not going to go in this draft today in the first 2 rounds, but he's a great football player, man.
Yeah, I'll chime in really quick with Biadasz. He had a hip surgery coming into this season, and so while he still played well, it limited a lot of his movement skills, and there are some red flags with him. So I think that that's the concern of why. But from a talent and tape perspective, I'm right there with you guys. I think he's really, really good.
Next pick on the board is the New York Giants. Tags, this is you, buddy.
Oh, we just talked about him. Tyler Biadasz out of Wisconsin.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, that's who I'm going to go with. I mean, they're a team that could use a tackle, but with the tackles that have come off the board right now, they'd be reaching. I think Lucas Nying, I think I'm pronouncing that right, out of TCU. He's a guy that projects as a right tackle. I actually like him a lot, but there are some health concerns with him. And this whole medical process can be sliding guys down the board. But at the same time, we can't predict them to fall too far. And the Giants clearly need to address that offensive line at some point.
All right, Detroit Lions on the clock again after I took, let's see, who did I just take? Cesar Ruiz. We got Jeff Okudah. I'm going to go with the safety here. Keep stocking up on the defensive backs. Xavier McKinney's still on the board.
Mm-hmm. He definitely still is.
Yeah, it's a good fit for Detroit.
Yep,
Smart
after
player,
losing Diggs
versatile.
last year.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's see. This brings it to, Carolina. I'm up again. What do you know about that? Who did I pick in the first round again? Let me see here. I went with Javon Kinlaw. So let me see who I'm going to.
They're a team that has so many needs. Like, they're a team that should continue trading back if they can. I mean, granted, you need to take difference makers when you have the chance to. And Kinlaw, a lot of people like him. But Yates and I have talked about this a lot. About you look at Carolina's defense. I mean, especially their cornerbacks.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, they play in the I'm not kidding. It's the toughest division in football for when it comes to wide receivers who they're going to play every year. Dante Jackson, Corn Elder, those are their starting cornerbacks right now.
Yeah, I'm definitely taking a cornerback here. It's Trevon Diggs. Now, he's not my favorite cornerback left on the board, but I do think this is who they would go with if he fell to pick 38.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of steam with Trevon Diggs lately, that he's going to be a potential first-round pick.
Mm-hmm. He's right in that area, so I think this is a good area for him to go.
All right, let's see who's on the clock next.
Jordan is back up.
Jordan with Miami.
Yeah.
Yeah, just keep.
Wait a second. Hold on. I put Jordan with Miami. Yates, you're the team with Miami.
Jordan
You're
made
the
the
one with
first
Miami.
pick. Jordan made the first pick with
Did he?
Miami,
Okay.
and then I jumped in. So now it's we'll go back to Jordan.
Well,
We'll go back
sorry
to
about
Jordan.
that, guys. That was entirely my fault.
It's all right. We're all trying to work our way through this together anyways. I mean, we're trying to figure out
That's
who's
right.
going to be going where, because this is what the teams would do, not what we would do.
Sure.
Yeah, I would take for the Dolphins Antoine Winfield Jr. I sort of like what he brings.
Love
And,
him.
Yeah, I like what he brings, and I'm really bullish on how Miami's building their team, and I think this would be a great fit considering what they did in the first round.
Tags, how early could he go? Could he slip into the first round?
I mean, I mocked him to Minnesota in the first round back a few weeks ago, and then I was maybe a little overzealous just because I love the player and I felt like he was going to move up draft board, so I was trying to be ahead of the curve. Would it surprise me? Absolutely not. Absolutely wouldn't shock me, but he feels like he's probably going to be a round 2 guy though.
All right, let's keep moving here. Now it is Yates. You are on the clock this time with the Houston Texans, their first pick.
Yeah,
the Texans. Can you trade it for Can I trade? Hold on. Can I trade you for that second pick right here? Can I give you Mitch Trubisky for a 208?
I think Bill O'Brien would be all over that one.
Probably.
But no, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna go with. I think that edge is a definite possibility here. However, I think that you have to look at your wide receiving core. And even though, I mean, guys, we can look at that and we can say, okay, well, they have 6 players now. Kenny Stills, Will Fuller, to Kiki QT, to Randall Cobb, to I don't even remember who now at this point. But you have to have someone who can play on the outside and who can be a big body. And Denzel Mims is still on the board. Now, he's not someone who I like in the first round, but here in the middle, we're starting to get into the middle of the second round. Man, Denzel Mims can still play, and he's a really good player. And so I think that for him to slide right in here into Houston, pair him with Deshaun Watson, actually give Deshaun Watson some help after you bizarrely traded away DeAndre Hopkins.
Everyone is always, if they pick a wide receiver here, everyone is always going to point back and say, this is the wide receiver they replaced DeAndre Hopkins with.
Oh, Brandon Cooks. That was who the other guy was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
I could definitely see it happening. I have no idea what Bill O'Brien's going to do. I'm not going to pretend to know. Fortunately, the mock draft accuracy competitions are only first round because Bill O'Brien and Pete Carroll are just going to throw us for a loop. And they've got 4 picks combined in the second round, I think.
That's how it happens.
All right, let's see here. Cleveland is on the board, and this is Jordan.
Yeah, I'll take Raekwon Davis. They don't. It's funny because this part of the draft, you could see you could see a run on wide receivers here. They don't really need one, barring some sort of trade. and just to help out their defense. I think that is something that they definitely need to do.
I love this pick. Tags, do you think he goes at pick 41 or earlier, or do you think that he falls into the late second round?
I think he's going to go earlier than people think. I like Raekwon a lot. I think NFL coaches like Alabama players, particularly defense, and they typically go higher than you'd expect them to. And Davis just happens to be a really good football player. If he falls into this territory, I mean, the team that's here is going to they're getting a steal as far as I'm concerned. I like Davis I think he's a first round talent.
I agree with that. I think so as well. Let's keep moving on here. We've got Tags. You're back on the clock with the Jacksonville Jags. Their fourth pick of the draft at number 42 overall.
Yeah, I don't like this team, Bobby. I'm really angry that you gave me this team because they're not fun.
Well, they have all these holes, man. You can pick whoever you want.
They do, and that's the thing is that's why I feel like I'm going to be wrong no matter what I do. After trading Yannick away, I think they need to attack edge, and one of the players that I feel like he's also someone that should go first round that is not getting enough attention, Julian Okwara out of Notre Dame. Phenomenal player. And I know I've gone 4 picks on defense for the Jags, but they kind of need to.
Yes,
I mean,
they
after
do.
losing all the players that they have, they need to rebuild that defense, get some difference makers. Okwara is going to be fantastic. If he were to fall to, like, say, the Bears, who are on the clock next, if the Bears, even though they don't need him right now, if they were to take him, I wouldn't be mad about it because he's a playmaker.
I'll tell you what, man. If you were the GM of the Jags and you went 4 defensive players first, I'd be pretty pumped up. I know a lot of people would be upset, but there are so many quality wide receivers on the board. You can get one of these guys later.
I mean,
Go
think
out
about
and get
it.
your defensive guys now.
Can we squash the whole Jacksonville Jaguars taking a wide receiver debate? Like, I'm struggling to find out why it is that people are like, they have DJ Chark who like flashed number 1 potential last year. They just signed Chris Conley to an extension. They have D.D. Westbrook who has been fine, asking him doing what they're doing. So it's like, why are they going to draft another wide receiver with a high pick in a deep draft?
Yeah, and they gave us, I think, a second round tender to Keelan Cole.
Yeah. Do they still have Marquise Lee on the team?
yes, they do. Probably do a big contract too. I think they gave him a huge extension.
Yeah, I mean, I think they will take a wide receiver, but probably not until the 3rd or 4th round. And there's still going to be quality guys there.
Right.
Now, we've got the Bears' first pick. Now, Yates, you get the Bears. You're a Bears fan. Who do you want them to pick, and who do you think they will pick?
Well, it's going to line up with both. And anyone who has followed any of my mock drafts knows that this is one of my favorite picks to make. And Tags, I'm going to give you a chance to guess who it is.
Jeremy Chin.
Yep.
Yeah. That's why I slotted for them, too.
Excuse me.
It makes sense.
I got too excited. I nearly swallowed
Yates,
air.
while you collect your swallowing down the wrong tube. I hate it when that happens, by the way, on the podcast. It's the worst. But okay, so let's pretend for a moment that they go wide receiver. What wide receiver do you think they'd be interested in here? Do you think it would be like a T. Higgins? Do you think Chenault?
Yeah.
Or do you think Brandon Ayuk?
No to the first 2. I don't think that Laviska, with his injury history, is going to go this high. I think that T.
Correct.
Higgins doesn't fit exactly what they need. I think that one of the popular comps for T. Higgins has been Allen Robinson, and so I think that you literally just are pairing 2 of the same guys. I think you need to be building out a guy to replace Taylor Gabriel with that speed downfield. I'm not a huge fan of Brandon Ayuk. He fits the role of what they need. I just don't think that he's that polished of a player where I want to be taking him. If they do take a wide receiver, I'd be looking at someone like KJ Hamler. I think.
Wait a second.
I'm shocked he's not gone yet, by the way, Ayuk.
Hold on. Who comped T. Higgins to Allen Robinson? Because
I don't know. I saw that a long time ago. So
I don't like that.
Find them and fight them.
I don't
it
like
wasn't
that.
you, was it, Jordan?
I don't like that
me.
comp. I don't like that comp because T. Higgins he's not like a route runner, like a crazy, like Allen Robinson is a great route runner. Like he's phenomenal for a bigger guy. T. Higgins reminds me of like an early stage in his career, AJ Green, where it's like he's going to be a deep threat. Like he's not super fast, but he generates separation at the top and he's an excellent ball tracker. He knows how to use his body. He's not an intermediate receiver. Like you're going to use him down the field. That's why I thought he might fit with the Bears. Like I know he's not that speed guy to get down the sideline. Ayuk probably fits that a little bit better in terms of their play styles, maybe even Hamler. But Higgins is someone that I believe he's underrated as a football player right now, but I don't believe he's a top-tier route runner.
All right, Tags, you're back on the board with the Indianapolis Colts. Don't you dare snipe me. I've been waiting to make this pick for so long. I'm super pumped about the fit.
You're gonna be really upset because it's Donovan Peoples-Jones out of Michigan.
That's fine. Good. I love Peoples-Jones with the Colts, and I'm just gonna say my player right now. Hamler with Tom Brady, baby. Let's go.
I don't know if he would take the slot role though, primarily.
He's picking up.
Dude,
So-
he'd be perfect.
I mean,
Tom Brady
but
would
you have Chris
love
Godwin.
to have Hamler on his team.
I agree. I think that, but you have Chris Godwin already
H
there
pipe for the head.
as
It's
that
40
slot
bucks.
guy.
That's it. Just
Sure.
the H pipe.
Tags, what do you think, man? You think it's possible that it happens? I think Tom
Yeah,
Brady,
the little
when he
short-
went there, he
short
said,
pipe.
I won't sign with you unless you draft me my dude, KJ Hamler.
Is Tags here?
Tags?
Sorry, guys. I cut out for a moment.
You're all good, man.
All right,
so
KJ Hamler to Tampa
Peoples
Bay.
Jones to the Colts. Why don't you talk about that since I tried to steal your thunder? Because Peoples Jones is my number 3 wide receiver in this draft class. I love him. I'd love to see him with the Colts.
Yeah, he offers flexibility. He could play in the slot. He could play on the perimeter. I like him better as a slot guy, and they just moved on from Chester Rogers. They have T.Y. Hilton on contract for another year, so they need to prepare for life without T.Y. There's a lot of reasons that they could use someone, but Peoples Jones provides he's a massive red zone target. I know he's 6'2", 6'3", but in terms of like what he offers is his catch radius, massive.
I think it's a good fit, man. All right, and I picked Hamler to the Buccaneers at pick 45. That means the Broncos are back on the board. Tags, this is your pick. Who are you going with?
Oh, the Broncos back on the board. I mean, I think we're going to I don't want to take an upside pick here. I feel like I need to take a better pick. I'm going to go with Jalen Johnson, cornerback. They're a team, like, obviously
You don't
they got
think that's
agent.
an upside pick?
I know. I said I wanted to go with an upside pick.
Oh,
but
okay, sorry,
I decided not to. But I'm going to go there because I know they brought in AJ Boye, but they also lost Chris Harris Jr., which it's almost like you kind of flip flop those two. They're different type of players, but Isaac Yiadom, you don't want to start him. Like, that's
Right.
basically what it comes down to. Bryce Callahan, they have him coming off injury, but they're probably going to keep him in the slot, so they need another cornerback. Jalen Johnson, I'm not a particularly big fan of him, but he's a guy that's gotten first round consideration from some teams, so I believe second round is where his home is. So it's more about a fit for me than it is than me liking the pick.
I think he's got a ton of upside. I like the call a lot. Let's see. We're moving on to the Atlanta Falcons. Jordan, who are you going with?
I was going to take Jalen Johnson, but now that he is gone, I am going to go Jonathan Taylor to Atlanta. Gurley's on a 1-year deal.
That's who I mocked yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah. So, and actually, it'll be really interesting for drafts and more dynasty than anything. I think it keeps the lid on Taylor's cost a bit. I think you'll see him slide more than the 101 he's getting drafted at right now. I think he'll slide a bit, and it'll be a really, really good value there in a few picks down right off the top.
All right,
Wow.
now Yates, let's talk about this first. And then Yates, you have 3 picks in a row, buddy. So, Tags, do you think it's possible they take a running back in round 2? That's who I slated to them, Jonathan Taylor at 215. They don't have a ton of needs, and Gurley's going to be gone after 1 year probably.
I think it's possible. I don't know if Gurley is going to be gone or not. I think they want to make sure he's healthy, and if he is, I think they're going to give him an extension.
Okay.
He wanted to be there. Like, I think it all makes sense, and he's probably going to take a hometown discount to stay with the Falcons, to be honest.
Yeah, sure.
So Taylor, he's probably going to go before this pick at some point. But Pittsburgh coming up at 217, they may trade up at some point because a lot of people are talking about Pittsburgh wanting Jonathan Taylor, which would make a lot of sense for that team.
Sweet fit, yeah.
But Atlanta cornerback is the biggest thing for me. They got an edge rusher in the first round here, but cornerback is just another one this is another team that desperately needs to draft a cornerback in the first 2 rounds, whether it be with that 116 pick or this pick. Not that I hate it, but I think Gurley stays there, so I'd probably go corner there.
All right, Yates, you are up with the Jets, Steelers, and then Bears. Who are you going with for the Jets first?
Yeah, so the Jets, I'm going to take Michael Pittman Jr. out of USC, a wide receiver. Pair him up with Sam Darnold again. The Jets desperately need a wide receiver. You have guys like Josh Doxson there. You have Brashad Perryman, Jamison Crowder, Quincy Enunwa. Like, those are your main wide receivers. You need to be upgrading that, especially to help out Sam Darnold. So I'll take Michael
Sticky
Pittman
hands,
Jr.
great run blocker, man. I like Pittman.
I love him, and I think that I think he could go a lot higher than this. So for him to still be here, I think it's a great pick for the Jets. At the 17th pick of the second round for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm going to go J.K. Dobbins here. I think that the Steelers need to be doing something to address their running back position with a healthy option. I don't think that it's necessarily a talent issue with James Conner. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy. Same thing with Jalen Samuels. We saw him miss some time last year. Benny Snell is not your long-term answer, and Kareth White is a gadget guy. He's a punt returner essentially. So you need to be doing something. And so for J.K. Dobbins, man, that's a huge upgrade. I love the talent of Dobbins and what he brings. I think he could fit in perfectly there with Pittsburgh. And then I will go here with Chicago. I think this is a prime candidate to trade down. They took Jeremy Chin just a few picks earlier. They don't have a pick again until the 5th round. So you need to be doing something to regain those picks. But if they do stay here, I'm going to take Matt Hennessy, a center/guard out of Temple, an interior offensive lineman.
I love him. He's a very good football player. I could see them going tight end too, or trading down and getting several picks and going tight end and then getting Hennessy maybe in the 3rd round. I think he could fall there. Now, Tags, I'm surprised the Steelers didn't consider a quarterback here. Do you think it's possible they take Hurts?
I think it's possible for sure. I have no idea what's going on with Roethlisberger. I think it's crazy for people that write it off that the Steelers won't go quarterback. But if they're a team that's built to win now, they didn't have a 1st-round pick. If they need a piece to help them here, I mean, granted, they got Eric Ebron in free agency for pretty cheap because they have some salary cap issues, so they can't fill holes in free agency like some other teams can. So you're not going to find a backup. You're not going to find a good quarterback. You know what I mean? Like out in the open market for cheap money. You can't do it. And it's like Cam Newton's out there. Yeah, sure. Jameis Winston's out there, and I've heard people connect that Jameis Winston to Pittsburgh. I love it, but they can't afford it. That's the issue. Yeah. They can't afford it. So it would make sense, but I don't know if there's a quarterback here that they should take.
All right, Tags, let's keep rolling. You going another offensive guard here, back-to-back?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead. Dallas losing Travis Frederick this offseason, surprisingly, to retirement. That's obviously a big thing. So I'm going to say Nick Harris. I'm going to bring in Nick Harris. He was a played center with Washington, but those guys can play guard. They can play center, but either way, he translates well. He's played center before, so Nick Harris to them makes a lot of sense.
He's my number 2 interior offensive lineman behind Baez. Let's go Rams at 20. Jordan, this is your pick.
Yeah, I mean, I think they have some needs. I think one of them is offensive line with just to shore up some of their struggles last year. So I'll go Austin Jackson, offensive tackle.
Yeah. All right. Do you think it's possible, Yates, that the Rams trade down and collect extra picks?
I think it was before they made the Brandon Cooks trade, because they have another pick coming up here in just a few picks. So I think that that would have been the right move. They still have that extra pick here coming up. So I think that if they were to move anything, they could move down. I think you have to be doing something. I like the pick with that offensive line. Austin Jackson brings some versatility. He can play opposite Andrew Whitworth or replace him in a year or two. Because Andrew Whitworth is 37 years old now, 38. So, you need to be planning for the long term.
All right, Philadelphia Eagles. This is my pick. Let's see who I went with the first time that they came up.
They traded out of that.
They traded out. That's right. So they need still everything.
Well, they got their edge rusher, obviously, in Yannick.
They got their edge rusher, yeah. I'm going to go out and get a wide receiver. Let's see who's available here. T. Higgins is out there. They could use a speed threat. Chenault, although he's more of a project than they could need. I'm going to go get T. Higgins.
Yeah, Higgins makes the most sense of those guys right there.
Man, Eagles fans would be so upset if they didn't get a wide receiver in the first, but then T. Higgins falls at 53.
If they got T. Higgins in the second, I think they should be really happy about that.
Yeah, Higgins and Yannick, that's a good draft for the Eagles. You guys should feel pretty good. Okay, let's go. Buffalo is on the clock, and Yates, this is you.
Man, Buffalo is so hard to draft for because you look at their roster and it's really good. Like they really do not have many needs. So, I'm trying to figure out like where they could go. And I'm going to give them, I look at their safety position, Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer at strong safety and free safety respectively. I think they could upgrade, bring in some depth. Ashton Davis out of Cal is a player that I really, really like. And I think that he is this guy he has tremendous speed on the back end, a former walk-on at Cal, a track star. I think he's just one of those guys who can cover a lot of ground. You leave him at single high, you're going to be just fine because he can cover pretty much the entire length of the field. So Ashton Davis here brings an upgrade to an already solid defense.
All right, Ashton Davis to Buffalo. Baltimore is back on the clock. Tags, I believe this is you.
It is back to me. Baltimore, they're another team that they're complete. You know what I mean? So they can go in a lot of different directions. I want to do a selfish pick, but I'm not going to. All right, so we're gonna go
What
wide
would your selfish pick have been? At least tell us.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah.
Because he's on the board. He shouldn't be there. I'm gonna go with this one's gonna make Yates pretty happy. Marquise Brown is obviously a speed demon. He's a guy that can stretch the field. He can do some other things too, but they really missed last year with Miles Boykin, and I think that they know that. Adding a wide receiver makes some sense here. So Antonio Gandy-Golden, this may be a little bit early. It might be a little bit earlier for him to come off the board, but I do think teams like they gush at the upside that he presents, and to work opposite Marquise Brown would make a lot of sense.
Holy cow, man. You blew my mind with that one.
I love it.
All right.
I love the fit.
I know you love it, man. Okay, now let's see we got the Miami Dolphins, and we're back to Jordan picking for the Dolphins.
Yeah, so I just had to go back. I couldn't remember exactly the order of who we picked.
All the players.
It wasn't anchored in my brain. Yeah, listen, I like what Devontae Parker did last year, but relatively rare breakout in terms of a year 5 breakout for a round 1 wide receiver. Haven't really seen that happen before, but I just think keep building weapons to help out Herbert. I'll take Brandon Ayuk.
Oh, man, I was going to take him.
In Miami, they haven't drafted a running back, have they?
Nope.
Damn, Edwards-Helaire. Book it.
Yeah, I feel like, I talked about it earlier with Jordan Howard, like, being there. I think, again, he's not the long-term. You signed him to a 2-year deal. But
that actually makes a lot of sense, yeah.
Edwards-Helaire would be a perfect complement to him. You have that pass-catching back, but yet still someone who can carry in between the tackles and split that workload.
Sure.
I think that makes a ton of sense.
And did you guys know the Rams have interviewed? So that's I'm bringing it up because Yates, you're on the clock with the Rams here at 225. That they have met with more running backs than any other team, and this was even a lot of those took place with Gurley still on the roster. So now that Gurley is gone, is running back a real thing for them?
I hope not. From a fantasy perspective, I really hope not. And from a team building perspective and what they're doing, they have so many other needs that you have Darrell Henderson and Malcolm Brown. Like, you're okay at running back. Like, go actually give Henderson a chance.
Sign Devonta Freeman and you're fine.
Do something and address these other needs that you have. So I'm going to address one of those needs. I'm going to give him Noah Igbenogany out of Auburn, a corner. Still a little bit raw as a prospect, but yet brings some upside. And again, it's a position of need opposite of Jalen Ramsey, where you have guys like David Long there, Troy Hill, but I don't think that they're the long-term answers. So go and get a solid player there.
All right, Minnesota Vikings are up. Jordan, this is your pick.
Yeah, I was thinking about doubling down again on cornerback just because I think it bears mentioning how bad their cornerback situation was at times last year. But I will go Jonathan Grenard, edge player. Just continue to shore up that defense and do it in some different ways.
All right, moving on to the Seattle Seahawks. This is my pick. Let's see here. I'm going to take in an interior offensive lineman. I'm taking Lloyd Cushenberry. I think that he is ready to roll, plug and play.
I forgot that he was still on the board. That's a great pick.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, let's move on to the Baltimore Ravens. Keep this thing rolling. Tags, you are up. This is your last pick. Yates, you already made your last pick. Jordan and I are going to take the last 4 picks.
All right, well, I'm going to ask for you guys' help on this one. I want to know who the top linebacker is. So I don't like Malik Harrison very much. I'm not a huge fan, but he's higher on big boards than I have him. So do you think that this would be a logical pick for them, or is there another linebacker that you guys are looking at and you're like, no, I would probably go him over Harrison? But
I know Yates loves Evan Weaver. Dude, I love Willie Gay Jr. That guy has a serious motor and great processing skills.
I like Davian Taylor out of Colorado, but I know he's not going this high.
Yeah, so I think the guys that you need to kind of consider, Evan Weaver, which I actually haven't scouted him. I think that's Tags that likes him. Malik Harrison.
No, Weaver, I don't think he's good in coverage.
Okay.
That's
he's not. He's a 2-down player, but he's a very good 2-down player.
They need an every down linebacker, though.
Right.
That's my issue.
I think the only guy that you could look at as an every down would be Jordan Brooks out of Texas Tech.
I think that's fair. Yeah. I'm still picking Willie Gay, man. He's awesome.
We can go Jordan Brooks. I mean, the reason I was leaning towards Harrison, I actually have Brooks over Harrison. It's just based on what the consensus is out there and but yeah, Jordan Brooks will go there. Texas Tech linebacker.
All right, Jordan, you were up with the Tennessee Titans. Or wait, is it me?
It's you.
I think it's
I'm
you.
the Titans GM. All right, let's see. Who did I pick here with the Titans in the first round?
AJ Epinesa.
Okay. So I picked an edge rusher, interior defensive lineman they could use, cornerback, tight end, probably not.
They need
this
an
high.
Interior defensive lineman after trading away Jarrell Casey.
That's right. That's a really good call. I don't think Jonah Jackson is ready to roll. Logan Stenberg here.
I like Stenberg as a guard.
I like Solomon Kinley, man, because they're going to run the dang ball. And I know this is a reach, but I think the Titans go out and get another just absolute mauler to put in front of Derrick Henry. I'm going to go with Solomon Kinley out of Georgia.
And now Green Bay's in the clock with Jordan. And Jordan, are you considering Jalen Hurts here?
I heard that today. I was reading that someplace today. I don't think that's real.
Hey, Jordan, it sounds like
it sounds like Hurts and Aaron Rodgers fighting in the locker room. Maybe give him a heart attack.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers would be furious, man. Can you imagine?
Would not be great. Would not be great. But it's
Brett Favre was furious too. It's so funny that they drafted the same guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, different football players, but.
Yeah, totally. They went so defensive heavy last year in terms of free agency and in the draft. I think that they can really come back and go offensive heavy. It's going to give them the ability to do that. I'll go Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And I don't think that I'm not convinced that they are settled with their running back position. And I thought that they could draft one in the first round. I took a wide receiver there. I do think that they need weapons, and they have been, virtually criminally negligent at this point in Aaron Rodgers' career to surround him with the talent that they've surrounded with him. Get him some weapons and help him out a little bit. So I would take Clyde Edwards-Helaire right there to give him a jump start.
Interesting they didn't go with a wide receiver. Now, I would hate if they drafted a running back because Aaron Jones is the man, but I think that they very well could. I don't know if it's in the second round, especially when they don't have a wide receiver yet, but it's an interesting fit.
I took Rager.
He would be
I took
a
Rager
very
in the first
strong
round.
handcuff in that offense.
I took Rager at 30.
Oh, that's right. Sorry about that. Okay,
Yeah.
so Kansas City Chiefs are on the board. This is your last pick at number 31 in the second round, 63 overall. Who are you taking here?
I'm going to butcher the last name, so bear with me for a second. Justin Matabuki, interior defensive lineman.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll leave it for you guys to hit the pronunciation on that.
Yates is really good with the pronunciations.
Well, I watch all these guys really quick. When I watch all these guys tape, I'm listening with the commentary on, so that's how I learn these guys' names.
Gotcha. I always turn the commentary off. I just watch the play. I should probably listen.
I'm going to do something interesting here with the last pick because I think Pete Carroll would be up for it. I know they've got Lockett. I know they've got Metcalf. Imagine this third wide receiver in Russell Wilson's offense, a potential first-round talent, Laviska Shenault Jr. If he falls to pick 64, I think they pull the trigger, guys.
I know that they're interested. Like
playmaker.
Russell Wilson has been clamoring for more weapons in the passing game, and I don't know if Greg Olsen does that. I don't think he does. I really don't understand the signing of Greg Olsen. I mean, it is what it is, but and didn't they grab another wide receiver? Philip Dorsett. That's Dorsett. Who it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they could use a third wide receiver.
He doesn't move the needle, man. Yeah, he's not a third wide receiver.
But yeah, I don't know if they'd look for another DK Metcalf though, because DK is essentially a better version of Shenault.
Well,
a field stretcher that could be a little bit more. I think they need a possession-style receiver.
Shenault can break a big play, though. I mean, Metcalf goes up and gets the ball, and he's really good at that. But
yeah, here's the Jordan brought it up in the first round discussion with Seattle, or at some point. It wouldn't surprise him if they took running back. Well, you have these guys coming back. Chris Carson coming back from a fractured hip, Penny coming back from the torn ACL. Laviska Shenault is the size of Ezekiel Elliott. And he's had experience playing running back. So you have this guy where a versatile option in your offense. If you are at the point where Chris Carson and Rashad Penny aren't coming back for week one, you can, ease them in with a guy like Laviska, where then you can move him outside, kick Tyler Lockett inside of the slot, and have Viska, DK, and Tyler Lockett. I think it makes sense. I don't know if they'll do it, but I think it makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, Tags, give me your three best players still on the board.
The three best players still: Neville Gallimore out of Oklahoma.
Yeah, wow. How did he make it?
Yeah, he's probably going to be. I've been hearing high second round, maybe late first, but I doubt he makes it the first. I'm guessing he's second round pick. Duggar, I know you like him, Bobby, but he's more of like a high upside guy. Jalen Hurts should be picked at some point. I do think that Hurts is good. And then between Bryce Hall and Lucas Niang, I'll go Bryce Hall just because it's a more important position in my opinion at cornerback. But he's got some medical concerns, so he's likely to fall a little bit further.
Sure. Cameron
Niang,
Dantzler has some juice to maybe go in the early second as well.
Yeah.
Yates, you see any other names? I know you like Matt Pert. Anybody else that stands out to you?
Yeah, so I do like Matt Pert. I don't think he's going to go this high. So this is like the battle of finding the guys that we like versus the guys who are actually, the NFL is going to like. So Bryce Hall, his medical is going to concern the crap out of people. Jake Fromm, though, has been getting some buzz again. He's starting to pick up that, which I predicted that people were, NFL teams were just going to fall in love with the character and leadership of him and try to put him in the right offense. So I think we could see Jake Fromm go above Jalen Hurts, actually. I'll make that prediction.
Oh. Interesting. I like them both a lot. All right. Jordan, any other names you want to give a shout out to?
I just keep thinking about Jalen Hurts to the Patriots. And
me too. Yeah.
There's that Alabama connection there. Obviously, he went to Oklahoma afterwards, but there's that Belichick, Saban connection. That is something he will have a very good understanding of who Jalen Hurts is as a player. And you listen to the guys that report on the Patriots, and they talk about part of that Tom Brady conversation was them moving on from him was they think they can do other things with the position. It's sort of an evolving NFL at this point. And doesn't the player that most reflect that in this draft, isn't he Jalen Hurts? And
right
I just
on
think
the money, baby.
If they're going to do that, and maybe it's they trade out of round 1 or something to that effect and move down and get into the second round or something and move for him, I don't think it's I think if they're going to draft a quarterback, I think he's the most likely one for them to draft.
All right, guys, that's all for today's show. This was a lot of fun. Jordan, thank you for taking the time to come on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
For Jordan McNamara, Mike Teglier, and Kyle Yates, I'm Bobby Sylvester. Thanks for listening and watching at youtube.com/fantasypros, and enjoy your football.
Thanks for tuning into the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. Make sure to check out our featured videos as well. Also, make sure to click that red subscribe button to get notified when we post videos in the future.